Hi, beautiful people. This is Bonaito. I used to do a commentary show for the channel in Portuguese. I decided to do it for the channel in English as well. But instead of doing some commentary on some news, I'm just going to use the stuff I saved for later on my Facebook. So just come read them and comment them with you. So here we go. So Crivella, Rio's mayor, justifies his mother being seen in a public hospital. She could lose an arm. Okay, the mayor said if he were in Rio, he would have suggested her being seen in another hospital to avoid commentary. Just let me just. I didn't even read the whole article. This pissed me off so much. I might even put some gut reaction here. Putz grila. E disse foda-se. E dane-se todo mundo. Puta que pariu. So among other things here, the Regional Council of Medicine had already, on the 19th, Monday, started investigating if there were any privileges in the mayor's mother being seen. I can tell you right now, I used to live almost next to this hospital. It's always busy. When there isn't a lot of commotion, it's because there's nobody going in, but there's always people waiting. It's always full. It's a reference hospital because again we have very few hospitals in Rio, and public hospitals are supposed to see everybody. That's of course what he's going to say, but here is the thing. It's a common sense approach that people, especially politicians, have the money to see themselves or their family or loved ones, whatever, in other hospitals. They do not use the public system because the public system is overtaxed. And of course, there's a whole lot of problems there with money that should go in, not going in, and stuff. Okay, it kind of reminds me how Lula, when he was president, started to say that Obama was trying to do the Brazilian system in the United States, and no, the Brazilian system doesn't work. That's not what they're doing. So this pisses me off to no end. My mother is a doctor in a public hospital in Rio de Janeiro. She sees how the system fails, where it still works, quote unquote, as in it still sees people. There are still people being seen there. We have what's called UPA. It's how can I say that? It's a ready to tend to patients unit, okay, which was seen as this is going to be a cheaper hospital. We can do a bunch of those, and then we take the emergencies, and the hospitals can do the other stuff. Immediately after, they stop having enough people, enough material, enough doctors, nurses, whatever. There are literally accounts of people being told they have to stay outside because they are not going to be seen, or we are supposed to see only this amount by day. The health system in Rio is very bad, not only material-wise, not only equipment-wise, but rather even the doctors. There are doctors that do not do their jobs, and the supervisors just don't want to cause a problem for themselves, so they do not actually do what they have to do. It's a common joke that you see enough doctors in a hospital, but they are just not working. It's just, oh, it's not my time, so I don't care. So Crivella, the mayor, was visiting some work being done, including work to repair a bike lane that again just broke down. It's new. I don't think it's 5 years old. I don't think it's 2 years old, to be honest. And it broke because it wasn't well done. It's another thing in Rio. Things are not well done. The supervisors are in everybody's pocket. The politicians get some money, and everybody pretends they don't know this. And then finally, we have something like the car wash operation, Lava Jato, whatever name you're familiar with, where people are investigating former mayors, former governors, people in certain companies. And then it pisses me off to no end that some guy in the New York Times makes an article saying that, oh, you can't investigate Lula. If you investigate Lula, you are destroying democracy. No, you dumbass. You have to investigate every politician. You have to. The problem with corruption is you don't investigate anybody. Finally, people are starting. And yes, I understand that some people are pissed off that, for instance, Dilma was impeached. The impeachment of Dilma is very clearly a maneuver. It's very clearly people using whatever they can to get her. But the thing is, if she did something stupid, if she actually broke one of the rules and rules of conduct or laws, which I don't think was the case, but rules of conduct, yes, you are supposed to take her off. The problem is not that she is off. The problem is you are not investigating enough people. I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little more, there was a landmark in Brazilian law, which was the Ficha Limpa law. In other words, the clean slate. As in, you have to have a clean slate to run. If not, your ability to run is suspended for up to 8 years. Quite frankly, I think it's too little. I think if your slate's not clean, you don't get to run, period. The government is supposed to be always clean. People are still fighting against this, and this is horrible, but yeah, it's a good thing. It's a step in the right direction. Just don't let the courts overthrow it. And that's the point. You don't get to complain because your party didn't win. That's one thing that I can absolutely tell every American out there. I am not happy that the president of the most powerful country in the world, quote unquote, because China is looking pretty powerful, for instance. I understand that you are not happy with Trump. I'm not happy either. He was democratically elected. You cannot call yourself anti-fascist because you oppose Trump, because he's not a fascist. Oh, but he said horrible things about women. Yes, he's an idiot. If tomorrow he actually imposes or decrees or signs is the least of it, but even signs a law that says that women don't get equal pay, you have a point. Just because he said something stupid does not mean that your whole system doesn't count. Everybody saying Hillary should be there or Trump has to be gotten rid of is not playing by the rules. Period. Look really hard into it. Investigate everything you can. If you find something, I'm right there with you. I am the guy who watched Michael Moore tried to elect a ficus and was rooting for the ficus, okay? If we find a reason within the system, great. If you find a way to change the system, great. And this is something you really need to learn. Americans and anybody who thinks, yeah, people can just remove Trump or remove Temer. I'm not happy with Temer either. Temer literally is to fear in Portuguese. So it's another one of those puns that people have been using a lot. For a good reason. He's not a smart guy. He's an idiot who actually says stuff like, oh, but we need you to work until you're 80 with a straight face. I need you to understand this. Because this is what I've been telling Brazilians all along. You are the ones who make the law. I know it's indirectly, but if somebody made a law you don't like, or if somebody refused to do something you are asking for, don't elect them again. It's really simple. In a two-party system like the United States, it's a little more complicated because you really can't just go libertarian. But you can get to know your candidates. You can email and write your congressman. You can be involved in the system. I know we invented the phrase, oh, it's just a politician, it's never going to work. but it works better for you than for us. And it doesn't work well for us because we don't do this. If you get into this mode of, I'll just revolt because I don't like it, like one of those horrible, horrible SJW kids in college grounds, you are only going to make things worse. You might get a couple of people on your side while other people vote and get Trump in. Please. I was really excited for Bernie Sanders, to be honest. This guy actually spoke about common sense. Hillary just said stuff that you wanted to hear. And you had the choice. Do I vote for somebody who says what I want, or do I vote for someone who wants to do something good for the country? Please do not make this mistake again. Bernie Sanders should have been the candidate. And then you have an actual race. You don't get to say we win because we are better. That's what Trump is to you. Damn, I really went on a side rant there. But anyways, the mayor of Rio de Janeiro comes back from a trip to Europe, a trip he took in the middle of rain season. We have actual floods here. I know people don't call them floods per se. They are light floods, if you will. They don't kill people very often, but they do kill people. We actually had 3 people die, okay, in the last one this year. In the middle of that, and Carnival. So even if you don't have a problem with the rain, you have a big event in your city. You have a lot of theft. A lot of theft. There's a theft that's being passed on in social media. I use Facebook mostly, where somebody actually says that their neighbor, somebody who lives in the next street, tried to rob them, and that's the only reason why they didn't lose everything. And right after, the police officer came and said, oh, but I'm already helping you make the complaint. And that's the city we're in. This is the kind of irrational thought that is allowed. The people who are supposed to enforce the law pick and choose, simply pick and choose what they are going to do. They say, I am the law, and not nearly as fun or as seriously as you might hear from Sylvester Stallone in Judge Dredd. It's just, I don't want to work, or I am forced to work here, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually going to work. And again, I'm a victim of that myself. When I was attacked in the last year, I heard from the police, from the lawyers, do you really want to continue with this? As in, nothing's going to come out of it. You don't think we're actually going to look for the people who attacked you, right? And that's the place we're living in. It's a horrible, I'm going on a side rant again. So, in this situation, Carnival and floods, the guy leaves the country. He comes back, and his mother is seen in Salgado Filho Hospital, a reference hospital, I should say, because we don't have a lot of hospitals. The health system is horrible here, but a hospital where stuff's still getting done. And already there's people investigating if there were privileges used and everything. But my point here is, do not come to Rio. In the Portuguese version, I talked about taking out Crivella as a mayor. He shouldn't even have run. He was a pastor. He was an evangelical pastor. It should be illegal. Quite frankly, it is. If you have any notion of separation between church and state, it is illegal for him to run. This guy, who has a history already of doing things that should probably be illegal, of favoring people who are in his religion over other people, and quite frankly being unfavorable to events of other religions, gets his mother to be operated on in Salgado Filho, a public hospital. There is a common sense belief that politicians should not use the public systems in any capacity, because the public systems are so overtaxed and so underfunded that any usage of it is not making them equal. It is just stealing the few times when the systems work. And this guy has the balls to actually say, that means the hospitals are good. I mean, I'm going to repeat something I said in the Portuguese version. This is why sometimes you see people go nuts and say, maybe if I kill the mayor, the vice mayor is going to actually care. Not because it makes any rational sense. Maybe they will care if one of them dies. And I'm not advocating for violence. Not at all. Violence is never the right answer. But guys, you can understand why somebody would snap. It's just overwhelmingly a fuck you to the city. I don't care about being here and doing my job. That should be reason enough for him not continuing as mayor. He should have been taken out already. But this guy comes back, uses public systems, and has the gut, has the balls to actually say, that means the public hospitals are all fine and I don't have to do anything. So it's been a long week for me. I didn't even edit the video at all. But I couldn't edit the video anyways because Crivella doesn't stop. He's still doing stupid stuff. Until Tuesday the 20th, news came out that the head of the military police in Rio, and if you are not aware, this is the police that actually gets enough respect as a police force should, because they do the most dangerous stuff. The head of the military police went on Crivella's trip with him. So during what they call the biggest party in the world, there was no oversight. The head of the military police was not here. On top of that, Crivella had to admit it wasn't an official visit. He says that he needed to see what was newer and what was best in GPS technology they were developing, and also that he needed to surveil the poor communities with drones, because the situation here, if you don't know, is that there's a lot of poor communities in hills. There's a lot of hills and nobody wanted to live there. Poor communities formed. He says, oh, but they take down helicopters, so we need drones and everything. But people who work on those agencies came out and said, no, we don't do this kind of work here. What we are trying to do is find out how black holes come to be. So it's an utter lie. And again, he's showing he doesn't have basic common sense to not just create a lie and expect not to be caught. And this guy comes back and says that Globo, the biggest channel in Brazil, is against evangelicals, and that's why Globo is attacking him. That's why they criticize him. And if you're not Brazilian, this is an old thing that keeps happening. Record, a channel in Brazil, is owned by the head of a church, an evangelical church that Crivella is affiliated with. Crivella shouldn't be electable at all because he has been a preacher. My wife just came in. And assumedly, we have separation of church and state. Record is the second biggest right now because they get all the money from the church. The church supposedly buys what is essentially dead air after midnight until 6 a.m. to make evangelical programs. And in those programs, they attack Globo a lot. This all stems from Globo making a report where they show a tape. Nobody knows if they produced it themselves, they pay somebody to produce it, or they just bought it, whatever. But they show a tape where you see Edir Macedo, the head of the church, saying that you have to give money to the church to get things from God. According to the law, that is being a charlatan. That's promising stuff that you cannot guarantee for money. So they make a report, they start an investigation in São Paulo, and Record, who is attacking Globo in the off time, when it's not them, when it's not a reporter talking, makes a bunch of news on how Globo is horrible and illegal without any evidence. It's not a report. I refuse to call it a report because let me just talk about the closest they got. When this happened, they showed a piece on how the prosecutor would have been the judge's ex-husband. Now, they have to justify this a lot. While they are saying this, they are husband and wife. They were husband and wife. I don't remember exactly the terms right now. They have to justify this as in they live together enough that currently they would have been considered a couple legally. And that was quite a thing. When I heard that in the beginning of the piece, I was like, they got him. It is illegal. It is something that shouldn't happen at all. But then in the end, they have to come out and say, that judge that was supposedly the ex-wife of the prosecutor
was not working on the case. So they make a whole piece to say how this is illegal and this shouldn't happen at all, to in the end say that woman was not involved. And this was the closest they got to actually making a report on something against Globo. So again, the future ex-mayor of Rio is not aware that he has to keep his mouth shut if he doesn't actually have anything to say against his enemies. He can investigate, but if he doesn't find anything, he can't do it. And Record, again, has programs all night long saying Globo is evil, which they can do because they are opinion pieces, they are not reports, but during their news show, they do this, which are not news. They are not reports. They do not have evidence. Like they did one where some documentation about Globo apparently has dates they couldn't have. That's interesting, but that's not proof that there's something illegal going on. And even if there was enough proof, those are from the dictatorship. They are arguing that during the dictatorship, Globo got big and it shouldn't have. But still, that's happened in the past. That's not to say that they are in an illegal position now. And I'm not defending Globo. Fuck Globo. I will not forget that in 2013, they showed a video that was altered, showing the end before the beginning, so that it looks like the protesters were attacking the police when the police started the attacks. I still think that the ethical group, whatever it is for reporters in Rio, has to investigate that. A lot of people broke the ethics. SBT, another channel here, had a person, Isabelle Benito, saying that you can choose not to use the buses. The reporter at the time pretended that the police has no option but to attack the people blocking the street. It's literally just half of a way. There's two ways on Presidente Vargas Street, and they were blocking one of the two, as I recall. Even if they were blocking the two, we all know what should happen. It is illegal, it is a crime. They have to go and arrest them, and they were not opposing or anything. No, they came in and told them to get out of there and gassed them. We know the police was doing stuff they cannot do. The reporters, like the reporters from SBT who said stuff against the protester, quickly changed their tune because they saw the people were for the protesters, and nobody did anything. I still think they have to investigate that. But still, those people, they were breaking ethics, but they are doing their jobs. The reporter talking about the protesters may be unethical, pretending they are doing something illegal and horrible, but he is still reporting. The people at Record pretending those are news were not doing their jobs and should not be allowed to work as reporters. By the class themselves, they should be considered unethical and unhireable. But that doesn't happen. And then Crivella comes out after he left the city in the middle of the floods. We don't have huge floods like India that destroys houses, but we do have floods. There are actually 3 people who died this year. And he doesn't care. And he thinks that's okay. I know, I'm just saying how outraged I am, but what the fuck do I even say? And this guy is pretending he's a good mayor. One of the things he does, and it's just fucking appalling to me, is we had a big storm, a lot of damage, a lot of people stuck in traffic, a lot of people, even people died, and he just says, oh, but the city was okay during the storm, I think it's okay. Last year, he said that we were being tested by God and we passed the tests. These are not things a mayor should say. A politician responsible for a territory should be saying, we are going to evaluate where were the worst losses so we can start there. We are going to help the people who lost stuff. We are going to make preemptive work. So next year, we don't have this problem. And this is something that has not been said in Rio for decades. This is a guy who is saying, I can't do much because I inherited a crisis, and he did. This guy is just saying the same things everybody said, and then saying, but I believe in God. Love me. God damn it, how stupid are you? Why? Why in the fuck would you think this is something you should say? There are people who are really inspired by their religion. Fine, it's up to you really, it's not my thing, but whatever. If you found an answer, great. Do not say, I'm leaving it to God, because that's not being religious, that's being fanatical. God damn it.
This was supposed to be about more than one news, but I just don't have the time, unfortunately. I'm gonna start editing this, and once in a while I'll put these up. I hope you like it. Thank you if you watched this far, and subscribe if you want to see more like this. Thank you.